Hello, everybody. I'm Benny here. Welcome to episode 111 of Chilling3000 Hangouts here today on the 26th of June, 2023, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we would have done an episode here last week, but we couldn't do it because I had other things to do, and we'll be doing it here today. And there'll be another episode this Friday of interviewing Nails, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, please welcome for my next interview here today, Brendan Martin.
Yes, it's great to be here, David.
So tell everybody about yourself and what you do for a living here.
Yes, basically, I'm Brandon Martin. For those who don't know, I'm currently 24 years old and currently still living in Oregon. And I'm currently the public address announcer for a high school in my hometown, and also do the same thing over there, close to a 40-minute drive over there for the junior college level as well, same as public address announcing. And recently, as of March, current play-by-play commentator for the Blue Mountain Timberwolves for baseball, and also many other things here on the David3000 Network. Announcer, co-host of Let's Talk Football, current host of Super Password. Yeah, a lot of things on my plate for sure.
Yes, I have them here on Rating My Podcast, Dumb Dingleberries in the future, Passion, Nice Talk Football, the news, announcer at Mountain Community College, and PDA public address announcer at the Hermiston School District 84. I want to welcome Luke, Dom, and also William and others who have joined here today this afternoon. So, how did YouTube start for you?
How did YouTube start for me? Well, basically, I was basically in this one 12 at well actually 12 at the time. I was, decided what to do on there. I was like, you know what? Some individual decided to do. I decided to do YouTube. Started with this July 2011. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of great things, even though despite some, you know, what can I say? Basically, you know, it's crazy things, I will say, but that I will not get into further details. That way, close that first channel down. Decided to do my very own, which is currently Brandon Martin, going strong for over 8 years overall YouTube wise. Currently, my going into my 12th year next month, though. My gosh.
Yeah, and you said you had an old channel. What was the username of that channel that got taken down?
Basically, that channel was Brandon 91724.
Mm, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yes,
that like
it is.
was that like your I don't know if it was your birthday, but um, what was it? How did you came up with that username?
Basically, with that username though, it's probably came up on the fly. Basically, it's nothing like why it was that. You know, basically that name in general is just basically like I said, it was on the fly.
Okay. Ryan, what did you do on that old YouTube channel? Just curious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a security code. Bofa. That blasted. But yeah, basically, Wheel of Fortune stuff, collection videos at the time, and game show runs.
Okay. Um, when you first joined YouTube, what was your main goal at the beginning?
You know, for the main goal for YouTube, just be successful, just be entertaining with everybody. Try to get to know me much better on the internet itself, and a lot of people would know about this channel name a long time. So
Yeah. Like what content, like what was your goal with the content? And how did you get into the game show community?
basically, there was game show community, for example, like Aubrey Scott, Matthew Vasconcelos, and Mark Leota, among many other people that I gotten really much interested in the game show community a lot. They did a lot of game show runs on their channel. I was like, I want to do the same thing on my channel, the Brennan91724, and make it happen.
Okay. Alright. So that was your main goal of joining YouTube.
Yeah, basically.
So how did the Rant to Rave podcast start?
Yeah, basically, we originally was going to do like myself and Jordy Scout with going over old episodes of WCW Monday Nitro from the very beginning of September 4th, 1995, all the way up to the pay-per-view. We reveal each episode, which basically it will be taking too much time on that. So we actually decided to do something different, which myself and Jordy decided to do a podcast, as you mentioned, which is the Rant and Rave podcast. And for those, like, say, I thought it's A&D. It really isn't. It's actually, you could, let's just say, you can have drop the A and the D, and all you got left is letter N, as in the girl's name Nancy. You're still trying to say and, but it's Rant and Rave podcast.
Hey, Victor! Nice to see you here.
Up, Victor.
But back to your saying of how they all began.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically, like I said, though, from the beginning, we decided to do the very first episode of the show, which is, of course, Rant and Rave. And then before we did StreamYard and all that, we were actually doing it off the YouTube. We were doing it off the YouTube live, and basically, Jordy was on Messenger. We were talking and all that before a quote unquote the second year in a row of that worst ending to a pay-per-view main event, which that is Hell in a Cell 2019.
This
And
is what I think
basically,
about.
we
This is what I
reviewed.
think.
Look,
This is what I think about wrestling.
go ahead.
That's what I think about wrestling. It could be flushed.
Well, that's you. That's you saying it, but not me.
I think Victor can agree with me on that. Nowadays, but continue.
Yeah, we were going over the matches for Hell in a Cell 2019 before we did the actual live reaction to the that pay per view itself, Hell in a Cell 2019. And let's just, like I said before, again, second year in a row of that worst ending main event match to a pay per view. Instead of the usual pinfall and submission, they decided to end it in the end of the DQ inside Hell in a Cell. I'm like, gosh, not again. I'm like, second year in a row of that worst ending main event match to a pay per view, ending in a DQ. Where in that case, you cannot disqualify inside Hell in a Cell. I'm like,
Oof.
that finish was still terrible. Yeah, and Dom, I can back. Yeah, you can back me up on that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my, I'm like, my gosh, that that was again the second year in a row of that worst main event ending to a pay per view.
Oof. So,
Yeah.
um, with um, Rate and Rave, actually, we'll get to that question in a while. But what I was going to say, the next question is, how did you decide to do Rate and Rave on Thursdays, despite other time slots you did back then, like Sundays? If I remember correctly, what made you decide to do it Thursday nights?
You know, basically, we decided to do it Thursday nights. You know, basically with my gosh, we decided to do. And I don't know. Hopefully, Jordan can back me up on that. Basically, we started it like an earlier time slot than our regular time slot that we are currently in right now with the 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. We were doing it in the afternoons. Actually, it's kind of mixed around at the time. Then we
Okay.
had some redos that happened. I'm like, things that could have gone better, but then finally no more redos, and then we just decided to just go with it, and knowing a lot to do with this, and finally deciding like later on, like back in 2020. Yeah, that worst year, mind you, folks. But yeah, basically back in 2020, we decided to go prime time, and this is where it happens as of now, right there. As to this date, I mean, it's been a long while. No breaks, no redoing everything, just straight getting into the weeks and all that. No stopping, no holiday break. Just we went through that, and then gosh, that's and we've been going strong as of late still.
And I believe you've been doing the Rent Your Right podcast every single week since I believe episode 16, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you most proud of about doing it every single week since then, back from towards the end of January 2020?
You know, I will say though, because we did have some basic, what do you call it? Basically, we had some numerous format changes. We had like the usual grade levels and all that from like certain events, like from Monday Night Raw, NXT, Friday Night
Yeah.
SmackDown, etc., and even pay-per-views. And these things comes from Bleach Report of all people. I mean, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then after that time passed, I decided to do, you know, decided to change up the format a bit. Decided to do wrestling news of the week. A lot of great things, but then again, like fun fact of the week. Actually, I forgot to mention that, and then sports of the week, etc. I know,
Mm-hmm.
right, Dom?
And welcome,
But yeah,
no
and
tripod.
then but yeah, basically we decided instead of three topics, we did in the past, we now did one topic from each of us on this panel, talk about whatever we want to talk about. And then later on, basically this 2022 itself, Yeah, I mean, the longer episodes, yes, it took too long. So Jordy and I decide take out wrestling news of the week to have another show that'll be powered by the Rant Rate podcast, which was this weekend wrestling. And of course, as mentioned, powered by the Rant Rate podcast, so that the episodes wouldn't take too long, and that's why we did that. So, which it made it much better for us to do it for 2 hours every time. I mean, sure, we do go a little over, but we try to keep it under 2 hours as possible.
Yeah. Um, how did you meet Jordan?
Basically, how I meet Jordan is, we were on basically on that group, which is at that time, well, a certain Tic Tac Toe, y'all, which is the YouTube games and entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, like
And
how? I mean,
I'm not
from
gonna
after
get,
that, like,
yeah, go ahead.
like, like from after that, how did you start communicating of wanting to do projects together? Like doing this, like Dante does.
Oh yeah, basically, with the I'm trying to think of that name because I know it was like
Be quiet.
reviewing
Sorry,
that.
continue.
But yeah, but yeah, basically, what I was trying to say is, we decided with Russell's, well, you know, we decided to do Russell Speak, going over the matches, review them every time, and then we decided to stop doing that, and give our thoughts about the match itself, then everything else, then then kind of that was winding down a bit. So, like mentioned, though we, as mentioned, starting up the podcast, like you mentioned before with Rant and Rave. Before Rant and Rave was a thing, then there's a like I mentioned before, we were gonna do the, what do you call it? Oh yeah, we were gonna do go over the shows for WCW Monday Nitro stuff and then pay per views. However, again, we took it. You couldn't take too much time on that, so again, mentioned Rant Rave was the thing to go with.
Hmm. Okay. Um, how did you get into wrestling?
You know, how did I get into wrestling? Well, basically, I got into wrestling was back in, man, it was like late 2008. Man, those were the great years back then. Then later on went all hell in a nutshell on that one from there. But these were those great years, when I got to start seeing wrestling show. It was back at a live Road to WrestleMania live show was back in, yeah, back in, gosh, February of 2009. I mean, gosh, got to see like WWE stars at the time at the Toyota Center, which I know they're gonna say Toyota Center in Houston. No, Kennewick, Washington. There are two differences about there, guys. But knowing, get to see favorite wrestlers, see them live in person, and then getting to start watching the pay per views, which I started watching at that time, the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. That was the very first pay per view I watched. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Yes,
Okay. Hello there, Kev. Um,
yes, yes. Been going.
um, now, How do you feel about Rating Rave going to be its 200th episode coming August 10th, 2023?
The 200th episode of Rant and Rave, seeing those things are going to be big. A mystery guest interview will be in place, will be taped before the show even starts and all that, which we're doing it like, you know, 2 hours before, and then after that, hour before showtime. And, you know, and there's going to be a lot of things, like I said, the interview wise, we're not going to give out further details of that interview, but you'll be tuned in to find out who that person is when you watch that recording taping of that interview itself, which some would say
Mm-hmm.
people would be shocked about it.
Mm. Okay. Um, have you ever applied for a Walgreens credit card?
Oh God, the Walgreens. Hell
Have
no.
it? Well, right. Uh, do you have? Remington is here. Hello. Have you ever? Do you have any Redbubble merch?
You can forget about Redbubble merch. I have my very own merch. Thank you very much.
Crap balls. Um. So how did you start the Rate Your Rave format from the start to now?
Oh man. Well, we were gonna do like three topics of whatever we're gonna talk about. As mentioned with the format. Then then we decided to do interviews like later on, which our very first one was. And thanks, Dom. I appreciate that. But yeah, basically, what I was trying to say is knowing we started to do interviews. Very first one was the devil himself, Drexel, which he created our logo for us, with our anniversary. And then, like later on, with format wise, again, as mentioned earlier, decided, you know what? It's time to decide to change that up. And with the grade levels, all those other things, that's like, yeah, it's gonna take too much time. So we decided just go over just results, no grade levels or anything. And then, like I mentioned later on, we did like change in the format with fun fact of the week of a certain fun fact that you do know and that you didn't know. Then wrestling news of the week, then sports of the week. Again, some important things to talk about, and then one topic from basically each of us on the panel. And then, did a little bit changes. I did with, two main things to talk about, like throughout the world of professional wrestling. Still got to do predictions for that certain pay per view. Could be either AEW or WWE itself. And then still did the one topic from each of us on this panel. But then when we do hit the 1 hour mark, then we go to straight into our sponsors. With Pro Wrestling Shoot with Jesse Carter, along with Alex Paris at the 25, and then now Scorpion Death Drop, aka Leon Calavera.
Do you still talk to Drexel to this day, and does he still make those logos?
Uh, he still does. I mean, I get to see him like every. It's been a hot minute since I talked to him, but I do see him, at wrestling live events. If I do sponsor those live events itself, I get to see him and
Yeah,
hit him up. Everything else with other wrestlers I get to meet behind the scenes, mind you.
and he had met him in person before.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, Now for each Rate Your Rave episode, um, how do you get ready for each episode? Other than the promotions, we don't need to talk about that because you already know how everybody knows how you
Yeah.
do that. But how do you get ready for each episode? And do you have like any meetings before each episode? Because you know we gotta get ready, prepping and all that stuff. How do you get ready for each episode of of what you know what to talk about and everything?
Yeah, basically I always search up, like, for example, with wrestling wise, I also go with Wrestle Talk, which, I mean, there's some things that may be true, maybe not true, because the thing is, if it's actual news thing, then there's something to talk about. Then I add it in and write that down. And a lot of, same basically with if we do like make sure if there's like a pay per view coming up, then we get to talk about that and go over the match card, etc. And then probably come up on the fly, just in case if like for like one topic of anything of our choice and give our thoughts about what we're going to talk about on every show. Then I do the thumbnails up, which now I'm doing it more often rather than the plain old Rant and Rave logo, which I'll give credit where credit's due to my very good friend of mine, Jesse Carter, for that idea. So I was like, you know what? I decided to do that and doing it much better. I was like, and some things that can take notes, people, with have a very good thumbnail. At least something better than nothing, which and actually have a great background, at least something.
Yeah, definitely.
More get
Um,
more attention off of that.
yeah. Um, how do you book interviews for Rate and Rave?
Well, basically, I book interviews for if I know the person really well for like say Drexel as an example, then like any other Hall of Famers, which I always usually do like either on Instagram and on Twitter that I do it, or go by email, which I always usually do that. Which if we can't go live on that, like say Wildcat Chris Harris as an example, because of the misses, or Amber Joe because of the time zone over there in the UK.
Which is a 5 hour
And
difference.
yeah, it is. I usually ask
All right.
like the day, the date, time, and you know how if that works for that person, then I always write that down. Try and make a thumbnail, and basically bring that up and like I said, post that on social media of who the person who's coming on that show. And yeah, this is I've been doing that ever since.
And you basically interviewed like wrestlers and just and plus you have the experience, so it's also easy to get those big interviews with that experience.
Yeah, most definitely. With wrestling connections, that is the main important thing. Wrestling connections.
Mm-hmm. Um, what are your favorite episodes of Rank and Rave?
Favorite episodes of Rant and Rave, I gotta say, the main one, episode 29, where we yeah, exactly, Buffett. But yeah, 29, the big one. Oh yes, the person loving WWE 2K20 and tried to defend that crap.
Yep.
And then
Um,
24, many others, 112. Gosh.
112, 112,
Yep,
I
that
think it
exactly
was.
correct. Yeah, 112, yes. That person. I'm not going to mention it on here, so
That one was great. A plus. A plus plus. What about your favorite interviews?
Favorite interviews, I say the favorite one I gotta say is Lisa Marie Varon, aka Victoria, would be the number one overall.
Interesting. Um,
Yeah.
how did you get the sponsors for Rent and Rave? And how did you discover the pro wrestling suit? Well, I say Jesse
So
discovered you.
yeah. So basically, I know Jesse wanted to do his thing, which is pro wrestling shoot, and have accompanied by his thing of which is James Pinard Jr. And knowing that he wanted to do his podcast, I was like, you know what? Hopefully he can do much things, much better, all those other things, and great. Get to be, I gotta say though, he's could be like a big influence off of me and then many others as well. I do have many influences, with Romy, Gary, with Alex and Austin Putnam. I mean, many others, I gotta say. Yes.
Are you forgetting someone?
Oh yeah. Yes. And that would be you, David.
That's better. Um, tell us on how you've grown your Rent and Rave shows to get the promos for the Relentless Wrestling and uh, actually I'll put this here in the private chat. Is
Yeah, I'll look
oh, so
at myself. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So basically, I hit up with a promoter, for Relentless, which is at the time Chase James. Then he was like, "Sure, you could, we can have you on here." And then gave them the money, which I always usually stay at those, stay before. I usually do when I do like sponsor a wrestling show. I always like for me do stay up there a day before the show and then getting all ready for showtime, then get all the things with merch, everything else, along with now I'm actually, which basically with merch wise, Jesse, I took his advice, not just like having just one design, have more than one design itself, which I actually took his advice and then I did that. Then went on to do some things, with Brainbuster tees a little bit, limited amounts of like new designs, with Nirvana, along with the throwback Ring of Honor logo. I mean, sure, it almost looks like it, but it's really not because due to copyright reasons, that wouldn't be able to do that. So it still worked. And then also did the same with the same thing Ring of Honor this time. The Ring of Honor one, like I mentioned, was the 04 2011 logo, but then I also did was the Ring of Honor from 2002 to 2004, which again, it couldn't do it because it was a little hard and all that. Again, copyright reasons. So it actually still worked either way from there. And recently getting stickers and then now 8x10s, then get prepared, then promote, and then be ready to set up before the fans comes in, and then always get to meet, greet everybody, and yeah, same
how
with Prestige as
how did
well. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, continue on.
No, you're fine. You're
Oh,
good. But yeah,
I was gonna say how did you discover that?
how did I discover that? Well, basically, there's like basically with Relentless, there was a new promotion came into Spokane, so I was like, you know what? This should be a good opportunity for me to do that and get the opportunity to do so. Then, I mean, sure, it's like a little off and on, now because I'm not doing like for every show because, with money wise and all those other things, like when I get a chance to do something, then I do it. But then I just, it's called being smart with money wise. I mean, with what to do next after this. Then same with Prestige. I've been going like as a fan at the time, every show. Then came to Roseland, the first Roseland show. Then yeah, and then basically then after that, I decided, then the pandemic hit, and we had to sit our asses home and everything else. Then after that, then of course Roseland 2, the long awaited Roseland 2, that was supposed to take place in March of that year 2020, but again with the pandemic, we decided it's stay our butts home. Then it kind of eased up a little bit at a time. Then Roseland 2 hit in February of last year. I decided, you know what? Even though I was supposed to work at that time, on Saturday, but this was my only time with that day off, get the opportunity to be at the long awaited Roseland 2 event and get to do what I get to do, try to do the best I can. Then everything else, get to meet and greet people, hand out business cards to everybody who don't know about the show. And if they already got the show, if you already got the business card itself, then great. I mean, that's no biggie on that. And as of late, I've been trying to do sponsoring some shows the best I can, get to be there, get to meet like some wrestling fans, some wrestlers along the way behind the scenes.
Cool. Um, what are you most proud of with the rate you made today? Honestly, to the 200th episode.
You know, basically with today's rave itself, knowing is trying to do our best, try to entertain people, everything else, it's give our best 100% along with other co-hosts as well, like Eric, along with Michael, well, Uriel, which we still miss you by the way, Uriel, about in this one, and
And
Andrew,
happy
which
birthday.
some may be,
And happy birthday.
yes, yes, happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday
Uriel.
to a bar. There's Eric Lima in the chat, speaking of which.
Yes, and I get to mention your name, Eric.
And Andrew,
uh,
and what
yeah,
else
and
are you most proud of about that?
uh, you know, oh man, it's despite again, besides 200 episode, I will say this again, you know, basically my favorite, it's been doing like, what I can do better, and then there's a lot of improvements I have to work on. And then yeah, but yeah, I
How
mean,
about Jeffrey?
gosh, proud moment. Yeah, proud moment, man. You know, get to do it for close to 4 years, which is coming up, by the way, up in
Yeah.
October 6th of this year. Yeah, I mean, it's still going out, still going strong. It's still been doing really well for ourselves. I mean, sure, we do have a little bit some episodes that was not good, but for us, we always do improve on that from the next go around. it's the main important thing is to have fun. That's the main important thing.
100%. Um, is there any way that you can improve rating rave?
Oh man. Well, you know, basically I will say to improve, oh man. I will say in this one try to improve is, get ourselves, I mean, sure, we're still getting ourselves out there, but we try to get sponsors. I've been hitting it up, with people from DraftKings. You have to join that part of it to be in that discussion, those things. I mean, I'm still trying to think about if I want to do that, with see DraftKings could be a good one, I gotta say. Could be
Mm-hmm.
really interesting.
Okay.
And it's
Now
all,
with us with wrestling, how did it become your passion, and how do you study wrestling, the history of it, and how you like fall in love with it in general for your passion?
yeah, you know, still got to fall in love with wrestling and being a passion of it for over 10 plus years, and being a fan of it and trying to work around the history of those things that some people would not know about if they're not wrestling fans in general. And basically with it's basically like studying it up and trying to get like look back at shows that are really good, not like the current ones, which I mean AEW, yes, I get it. They're a new company as of since of 2019. I mean, are they going to be perfect? No, absolutely not. Are there improvements? Yes. There are always going to be improvements along the way and what to do better with their viewers and their audience itself, a lot of things. And the women's division, and it's been going downhill as of late. I mean,
Oof.
the women's division could be deserved much better, I will say. And you know, with the AEW roster, it's too much. It's basically, you know, gosh, there's some things that need to be worked on in that. But I will say, AEW is trying to do their damnedest to be like, in their case, the best wrestling company ever. Same with WWE. They're trying to do their best as well, but with their low viewership, not well in their case. With they have to do like better storytelling. With WWE, and also with AEW. I mean, they're also doing a good job of it, but they could have gone a little better of like matches and all that, etc.
Okay. Do you ever want to be part of the wrestling media?
Well, I did with that. I did with basically with AEW. With being on the media call. Of talking about the things with wrestling wise. Of like what's gonna happen, etc. When will David3000 be all elite? Oh gosh.
Hi, Tyra.
Word. But yeah, I did with AEW. Then had to get up that certain day. Listen in. If you would have to get your hand, like not try to get your hand raised, but just push that button to basically raise your hand if you had a question. With basically at the time with Cody Rhodes when he was
Yeah.
with AEW and then went to WWE back when he made his return back at WrestleMania 30. Well, yeah. WrestleMania 38, and a lot of people were cheering and shocked everybody else, and still had that song, when he was with AEW, with Down Straight by Kingdom. Lots
When
of
I said
people.
inventory, anyway, continue.
Oh gosh, and that's true, but with three things like a story, characters, and moments. Yeah, I mean, but basically back to the media thing, I will say there are some things you can post about.
We are live. We are live here,
Yes.
Cypress TV.
Yes, Tom, it is live indeed. But yeah, basically, and for those who wants to be do an interview like media and all that, don't do stupid shit. Basically with record live stream and all that, which it doesn't look good, and you'll be excused that you'll be banned from that, which it doesn't look good on you or the company itself. Which, however, if you want to do that, you could post the media scrum and all that after that was over, and you actually get a copy off of that, and from that recording at the time. This is the
Quran?
PG version of MJF for Taylor.
And no, sorry.
Ah, but yeah, for advice to everybody, when you do go to a media scrum itself, please don't go do a live stream on that. And
What?
shoot. But yeah, I'll continue. But oh gosh, yeah. Oh, you.
Anyway,
But yeah,
continue. Sorry,
basically
continue.
with that, yes, I will say there is this is don't do stupid shit like with media. Once it's don't do a live stream while they're doing the thing, which and like everybody be tuned in with everything, with the behind the scenes and all those other things, which and with that you'll be excused and you're not going to come back to the media scrum at all. And just like at least still participate and still listen in of what they're trying to say mostly.
I'm doing good, Cypress, and that's nice that you're making peace without me. Um, do you ever want to meet do you ever want to meet Principal Man?
It will be a cold day in hell because of that Adolf Hitler look-alike mustache, and it doesn't look good on him. I mean, gosh,
Wow, that got deep. Uh, well, maybe I
it
can
did.
interview. Maybe someday February we can interview him. Anyway, do you remember the time that you got those Wheel of Fortune DVDs for your birthday?
Oh my God, yes. you know, I always, I didn't expect, what Danny got me, and I did not expect of what he got, and I look at that the episodes, and I always do like a test before I watch them, and it went really well, and then decided to watch them. And then, of course, one of the episodes was not a full one, but hey, and I wasn't mad about that. I was like, I'm gonna take it. I'm not mad about it.
Mm-hmm. Other than wrestling, what other sports do you like?
Besides wrestling, football is one of them, along with basketball, hockey, baseball, softball, and many others.
All right. How did you get into football since you're part of the top football team?
You know, basically got into football. Well, you know, I was a Raider fan at the time, and they were losing every single time. But well, bowling, not that I know of there, Luke. So it could, but who knows? But yeah, basically back to what I was saying with how I got into football. Well, was a Raider fan at the time. They were kept losing all the time, so I know it's like, Brandon, why were you a Raider fan? Well, I like their silver and black colors, all those other things, and then plus they were losing every time, so that way,
Yeah.
and I decided to change up teams. Decided to go up with another team in mind, which it'll be part of my family's team really well, which was the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, switch up. I was like, oh, you can't switch. You are right. Well, at that time, Tom, yes, at the time. But then later on in those days, I just like, yeah, I'm gonna try to switch up a different team, and then, oh, you be quiet, Tom. You be quiet, shithead. God damn it. But yeah, basically, of becoming a Bronco fan, knowing get to be part of my family's team really well. Like from my father, and along with, man, you know, part of my dad's family, etc. And yeah, and that's basically how I got into the Denver Broncos. And yeah, that's basically it.
So basically, you're under part of your family is why you're a Broncos fan instead of Seattle.
Yeah,
Um, I'll be right back. But while I while I do that, um, what made you want to do NFL play-by plays?
yeah. Basically, for NFL play-by-plays, I was like, you know what? It's kind of familiar with one person in mind, which is by one Alex Putnam, A Pizzle 90. I was like, you know what? I get to start doing it, which give myself more of a variety of content wise. And the very first one I did, even though it was a live reaction, I didn't do play by plays. However, later on in that, I decided, like, you know what? I know what Alex did that. So I was like, you know what? I want to do it with this. Get to do it for like my very own team, along with doing Sunday night, Monday night football, etc. Get myself more content and variety of everything else. And that
Mm-hmm.
first one I did with like the Broncos and the Seahawks, and actually as getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. I mean, not subscribers. I mean, and views. Ugh, a little tongue tied for that one. But yeah, it would have been
Yep.
nice there, even though I already got over 1,000 subscribers at the time. But yeah, almost nearly 1,000 views, and I got rated by a person, a famous YouTuber, in the name of Tom Garassi. Great
Mm,
YouTuber, I gotta say, and did not
nice.
expect to get rated like that. I mean, and that was amazing. Yep. I mean, actually, Tom, over 1 million right now.
Holy crud. Um,
Yeah,
what um, what do you think of Russell Wilson?
of festivals. Oh gosh.
No, no, Russell Wilson.
Oh, Russell Wilson. Okay. Yeah. You know, at that time he was with the Seahawks. Then he wanted to go for a different team, in which was the Broncos, and then gosh, and then signed like a 5 year deal with them, and then some people or a lot of people would say that was a bad decision making for the Broncos itself. I mean, his season though with the Broncos, oh man, did not do well. His stats and everything else, it's not like what he did with the Seahawks.
Did, were you a Broncos
Broncos,
fan?
good lord, Bofa.
Were you a were you a Broncos fan before he got before he got to the Broncos?
Yes, I was basically with Peyton Manning and different other quarterbacks. You know, Brock Osweiler, Drew
Mm.
Lock, and gosh, Drew Lock though, yeah, that was a whole entire different story on that guy. Did his best,
Who
did
is
not
your
do
favorite?
well, but most importantly, go ahead.
Who is your favorite NFL player of all time?
You know, the favorite NFL player of all time, I got to go with John Elway. John Elway,
Okay.
longtime Bronco.
All right. Um, how did you get into game shows, and what is your favorite game show of all time?
Oh man, I will say probably my favorite game show of all time. I gotta say, oh man, this is a tough one to choose. So basically, I would say I have to say Wheel of Fortune.
All right, and you can answer this one.
Favorite color skills. Wow, hmm, that's a really interesting question, Tom. I will say favorite color I got to go with is the red.
He has Luke. Um, what made you want to get into announcing sports for your junior college, which is Blue Mountain Community, and same for public address announcer.
Okay, basically before BMCC though, I was doing the school district at the high school, so basically in my hometown, and I decided to do. But yeah, basically, I decided to do up talking to my business teacher at the time, which Mr. Tuvey, then wanted to get into public address announcing, which a long time, which I know is like basically I've been doing talking to myself in the mirror, talking, talking to myself, and then my mom was like, "Gosh, it's." My mom was just saying like, "What are you doing?" And then like did some play by play, announcing, all those other things. So I gotta say, and then that's basically how I came to become a public address announcer. And my mom, just that my mom wanted me to do that, and that's I got a dream. My dream came true about that, basically of who I became, and I had like the ropes with Joe Thompson, the longtime PA announcer for football, many other sports, and then which he's currently retired right now from that. John Lauk is still doing it, and currently play by play now play by play commentator for KOHU, which is Eric Olson, which it gave me really good mentors about this as well. And you know, I still been doing this for getting into 8 seasons with this team itself. I mean, I've get myself better and better and better. Same with the college though. It was like a little later on with college, so I started out basically with baseball, and then with at that time the athletic director was the late great Brett Bryan, and then later on it was athletic director and Don, and I'll go back to how it got started. But basically, my best game ever you ever called. I gotta say, my best game I ever called was for this year. Was basically the major comeback between the Timberwolves and Prairie Baseball Academy. The Timberwolves were down so many runs and then came back from winning that game, a very high score game, 14-13 was that final for that first game in general. I mean, it
Wow.
was amazing to call that game.
And was that in extra innings as well, or no?
Actually, it was, yes.
Okay. And how to do the public address announcing?
Yeah. Basically, like I mentioned, going back to it with BMCC, I decided, basically hit me up, call me, decided to do this for doing the public address announcing with baseball. Then I went on to later on with men's and women's soccer, and I did with volleyball. Had to get learned from the game a bit. Then women's and men's basketball. Then same scenario with baseball, and then softball, which I actually announced all of their games from there. I mean, I'm a very busy man, but back to the high school part, I usually do was right now women's soccer, slow pitch softball, and I don't do much with winter unless they need to be called on. And for spring, I do fast pitch softball, baseball, and same scenarios basically for like as mentioned for winter, and yeah, basically for men's soccer's. All right. And where do I see myself in 10 years? Oh man. For me, I will say still get to do PA announcing, give back to the community itself, like for my hometown, over there close to a 40-minute drive over there to another town. Still want to give back to the community and even the student athletes itself. A lot and lots of people who get to remember to be remembered by of me publicly just announcing their kid itself.
All right. Um, I just got some McDonald's over here, so it's the dinner time. So, um, what experience helped you get the job for announcing in college? What were the steps?
You know? Oh man. Excuse me. But yeah, the steps were, basically, before junior college though, well, as part, the high school, that one did not count, but I still counted it for myself either way. Then had to got myself the real job, doing the school district, had to do, all that stuff, which I know some things like discussing like the P test, all those other things, like to get yourself cleaned, everything else. It's like fingerprinting, all that for the school district. But for the college itself, I just had to do some paperwork, all those other things, and try to get interviewed a lot. And you know, basically it. It's get to do what Bren can do best, along with many fans. Get to hear my voice, all those other things.
You can answer this one.
All right. Would you consider joining an announced team for wrestling? Basically, I mean, if that would be considered, if they, I mean, sure, I don't have that experience and all that, but I've just barely got started doing play by play. I mean, it could help me through the ropes, get all that other stuff. But if I do want to join an announced team for wrestling, I probably would, not going to be like the lead play by play guy, just analyze like a color commentator.
And basically, like pre-game, post-game, like pre-game, post-game
Well,
analysis.
somewhere around there, yeah.
Um, Now since you're doing junior college, these headphones. Um, will you ever want to do any NCAA sports for college?
You know, I will say if I get most of the experience, then yes. But basically, get to try to get to call games or do some do some PA announcing gigs as well. Get myself more better, get myself, more of the experience, even though I currently got right now, with
Yeah.
currently being on with this my because I know my high school for its my eighth season coming up next month in March. Not next month, but like March of next year would be my seventh. So I would get basically a lot of experience from that, which is most important to get a lot of experience. But I know there's some jobs you would have to get was basically like associates, all that other stuff. That's basically like try to get like a job, like a PA announcing job, and that's the main important thing.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it would be great for NCAA sports. I mean, they're the most exciting sports out there for college.
Oh yeah,
Um, what was the first job that you ever had before doing your an announcing for junior college? Like, what was your first job that you had?
basically, yep. Communications degree is true, yes, and basically before junior college, basically my job was basically PA announcer for the high school. That was basically it.
Okay. Maybe Tom used to do NCAA sports, and I would tune in. Um, how long do you study before each game for public address announcing
You
and
know,
play-by-play?
basically, for PA announcing wise, it's much easier job. You would have to go look at the home team, which I should know that by heart, no problem. And then for the visitors, I always look at film before and not to look like their names, their first and last names, and if it's really hard, like try to do my best at pronouncing it first, then I put like a big check mark or a question mark. It's like, okay, I got to work on that one, or start. Then same scenario with the coaches itself, and then always look back at, like I mentioned, look back at film of how the play-by-play would say, or the PA announcer would say as well. But if it's not right, then I always, when it comes to game day, you know, it takes some time. And then if I do have questions, I always ask the visitors head coach of how to pronounce the name and all that. Then I phonetically write it down and then get it correct itself. And basically, and then if it's wrong, then I can fix it. In which we don't we basically, if you don't get it right, then you try to phonetically try to fix it. Then you'll get the full pronunciation correct along the way. And yeah, and for play by play, I it's a lot more prep work than your usual PA announcing. I always have to like go through stats, like for both teams, updated stats, not no no missing stats, anything else, just always updated stats every time for every game. I write it down and I write notes of what I want to talk about during the broadcast, etc. And knowing what what I want to say and tell a story along the way, and give hearing listening of the audience of what we're going to say during that broadcast.
Okay. Um, what is your dream job?
Dream job, I will say, be PA announcer or be a play-by-play for a major network. Part of, like, if you're like myself in Oregon, with NBC Sports Northwest, or anywhere, in general.
Okay. Um, what other favorite YouTube channels out there to watch? Like any favorite sports channels or whatever on YouTube?
You know, yeah, knowing, I will say, I would be listening to like ESPN. I also listen to their local, you know, TV stations, a lot of great other things, I will say John Miller, Gary Thorne, gosh, many, many, basically with another one in mind, I will say, like great John Madden. I also, Al Michaels.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
how do you like doing Super Password and the news show?
For Super Password, I will say it's going well. I will say, and I always have to look at, try to do the best, like to not use the same word on that same, like the previous puzzles. Which, and if it does, then I would not count it. But I always like look back at, looking through to see if it has the same word. But if it's not, I use it. I can go ahead and use it and then type in, like, always take a picture. Then I always do duplicates, two of them, for the celebrity and the contestants. I always try to black it out, and all that, which I don't want anybody cheating and all that. So trying to have a fair game, which basically I want to have a fair game, because if it does involve cheating, then nobody's having fun with that.
Yeah.
And that's the way. And same with the end game. I always try to use words that I can and cannot use. I always like put like 1 through 10 mostly, not 1 through 15. That is like too much. I don't do like double digits like 10. Okay, sure. Just 10 itself, that's fine. But for like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I'm not going to do it. 1 through 10
Yeah.
is the best thing I can go through, I will say.
And what about for the news?
And for the news itself, I mean, I come at things on the fly. I'm not like don't get prepared. I was like try to do best, like get that out of the way and done with. And I'm not. It's not like with Jake. I know with Jason and all that, but it's like really like what I can come up with, like during this, let's say during the summer, during special happy birthdays, everything else. And if I do have time for like news, like I use like NPR.org for the headlines. Sports I do with MLB as well.
Yeah.
And I always then go to commercial, then work on one of the main things that'll be talked about. Then if I do have some time, if I already got done earlier, then I usually go like the national holidays of that day. And same scenario with that. And yeah, and I always basically like when it gets to the end, I always like, you know, everyone would say like coming up next with the Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson, etc.
Yep. And it's weekdays here on the David3000 Network for the news show at 8, 7 Central. Jason the Kenny does Mondays and Tuesdays, and Brandon does the rest of the week.
Yes.
Um, what other hobbies do you have other than YouTube and announcing and wrestling?
Oh yeah. Well, basically for hobby wise, I work out, need to be worked on more, but it's I will say and going out for for walks, everything else, and football, everything in that vicinities. And I mean, it's not a whole lot, but hey, at least it's something better than nothing, I will say.
Okay. And the last question for today is: do you have any advice for those who wants to be a good podcaster host?
I will say this. If you want to be like a podcaster, like I am currently, is talk about what you want to talk about. Like, if you want to have your own show, then by all means, go do it. I mean, it's like most importantly to everybody is be yourself. Don't be like some other influencers of podcasters. That most importantly is do not copy off of that. Just be yourself, most importantly, and have topics in mind
Hmm.
and the things you want to talk about. And basically, that's how you and be more out there and promote every time.
Absolutely.
That's your main important thing is promoting, and everyone can listen in of what you're trying to say. Everything else.
So, other than Rank and Rave and wrestling reactions, what else is coming up on your channel?
Uh, yes, that is true. Both of them, and have fun indeed. Yes. Yep. Network, all those. But yeah, basically coming up. It's not gonna be much. Just regular rant and rave this Thursday. Then live reaction on Saturday afternoon. And basically that'll be it for that week itself. And we get to start all over again.
All right. So that's gonna be it for this episode here of Chilling3000 Hangouts for today. Thank you all for watching. Tune this Friday at 8, 7 Central for my interview with Nels, hopefully. And with that being said, thank you all for watching and have a great rest of your day.